This week on Vaticano, we visit some of the most beautiful churches dedicated to female saints, take a closer look at women's leadership in the Vatican, and meet Sister Emanuela Edwards, who left her career in London to embrace religious life. We also visit a community of sisters inspired by the wisdom and spirituality of St. Hildegard of Bingen. For this and more, Vaticano starts now. Rome's skyline is crowned with domes and bell towers, and among the more than 900 churches in the Eternal City, some of the most remarkable are not named after apostles, popes, or other male saints, but after women, whose stories still echo in stone and mosaic. One such place is a small chapel tucked into the narrow streets near Campo dei Fiori, the Church of Santa Brigida, dedicated to Bridget of Sweden. A mystic, pilgrim, and founder of the Brigittine order, Bridget was born and raised in Sweden. A mother of 8, she came to Rome as a widow in 1348 and made the city her spiritual home.
Rzym pojawił się dlatego, że w 1350 roku papież ogłosił rok święty.
Rome became significant because in 1350, the Pope declared the Holy Year. Bridget, who had traveled all over Europe and decided that she must also go to Rome for the Holy Year, Saint Bridget received many revelations from the Lord Jesus, and in one of these revelations, Jesus told her she was to go to Rome.
Że ma się udać do Rzymu.
The beautiful church rises on the site where she lived and died, transforming a medieval dwelling into a place of veneration.
No I ten dom jest związany z nami
The house has been connected with us since those times. The building has been rebuilt and adapted many times, yet there are still rooms where Saint Bridget traditionally lived.
Tradycyjnie mieszkała święta Brygida.
Sister Karin is one of 35 Brigittine sisters from around the world who serve this small church. Upstairs, in the rooms where St. Bridget once lived, her relics are preserved, including the rough wooden tabletop on which she made her final wish to die, choosing wood over a bed and uniting her last moments to Christ's suffering on the wood of the cross. The Baroque chapel, meanwhile, is adorned with paintings depicting scenes from her life and St. Bridget's visions, revelations that urged reform in the difficult times of the medieval church and the Avignon papacy. Across the Tiber, in the labyrinthine heart of Trastevere, lies Santa Cecilia in Trastevere, dedicated to Saint Cecilia, patron saint of music, born and raised in a pagan family.
Who was Cecilia? Cecilia, she was a woman of noble origin. She was born in the region of Trastevere, and at the early stage of her life, she devoted herself to the Lord. She decided that she wanted to keep her virginity and she wanted to be a Christian. However, her family forced her to marry. She had to marry at an early stage of her life because that was something that generally was done, and she married a pagan. His name was Valerian.
Soon after, her husband also converted to the Christian faith. They lived only a short time because the emperor quickly discovered that they were Christians, and both were killed as martyrs for their faith. The present basilica rests atop what is believed to have been Cecilia's family home.
Cecilia died in terrible agony. It was found in a very curious position. She was lying on her side and her head was not visible. The only thing that was visible on her neck was the wound caused by the executioner.
In this church from the 5th century, one of the oldest in Rome, art and martyrdom intertwine, and Cecilia's silent testimony of unshakable faith still seems very much alive. Overshadowed by the monumental presence of St. Peter's Basilica, within the walls of Vatican City stands the Church of Sant'Anna dei Palefrenieri, built in the 16th century and dedicated to St. Anne, the mother of the Virgin Mary, although she's not a very prominent figure in the Bible.
Perhaps the reason is that she is not mentioned in the Gospels. Anne and Joachim are referred to only in the Proto-Evangelium of James. And yet, this small church, which in ancient times was dedicated to St. Anne, has certainly remained an important symbol in history.
Sant'Anna dei Palefrenieri is also the only parish church of the Vatican city-state, the smallest country in the world.
It is, so to speak, a parish without ordinary parishioners, because the faithful here are all in a unique situation, living within the Vatican. Only a few families remain, along with the gendarmes and the Swiss guards, who each have their own chaplain and their own services. So there isn't the same kind of activity you would find in other parishes in Italy. Here, it is more of a matter of pastoral service, administering the sacraments, and celebrating the Eucharist. For all the employees and the sisters who need specific times in order to take part in the Eucharist.
Pope Leo XIV paid his first official visit to St. Anne's Church on September the 22nd. It was a moment of particular emotion, as since 1929, the year of the foundation of Vatican City, the church has been entrusted to the fathers of the Order of St. Augustine, the confreres of the new pope. Santa Brigida, Santa Cecilia in Trastevere, and Sant'Anna dei Palefrenieri, the three churches named after three renowned women, trace a map of feminine sanctity across Rome. Bridget the Reformer, Cecilia the Martyr, and Anne the Matriarch each represent a different model of holiness, yet all of them remain a profound inspiration for women today and for generations to come. Coming up next, a special overview of the remarkable women shaping the Vatican today. The number of women working in and with the Vatican is on the rise. Driven by a shared mission to live and proclaim the gospel, women are playing an increasingly vital role at the heart of the Church and in Catholic communities across the world.
It's an ongoing journey, but it's true that with Pope Francis, he has appointed more and more women in leadership positions at the Vatican. But it's not only here at the Vatican. I see also many, even dioceses now, they ask a woman to lead the spiritual exercises or male religious congregations. They also ask more women to give them a retreat or to facilitate their chapter. You have more and more women now, for instance, in leadership role at the Caritas. That is a very important place for the church, or as president of Catholic universities. So it's, there is interaction between what is happening in the Vatican and in the local churches.
Now, 5 years into her role as Undersecretary for the Synod of Bishops, Sister Beccar says that she's also seen more women, religious and lay, being appointed as expert consultants to various Vatican offices and commissions to guide the Church's mission on a global scale.
My name is Marianne Evans Mount.
American educator Marianne Mount, appointed by Pope Francis in 2024 as a consultant for the Dicastery for Culture and Education, said the new role came as a surprise. After retiring from her 16-year post as president of Catholic International University, Mount was brought to Rome to take part in international meetings led by the Vatican.
The first year we met in May, and the topic was theological education and how to incorporate philosophy with theology, because the model of the ecclesiastical universities is very different from the U.S. So the Dicastery was looking at ways to consolidate and make it more appealing to Americans, for example. And then the following year we had a meeting to talk about AI. I find the program very interesting.
And welcome.
Thank you, Father Ned.
With more than 40 years of experience as an educator in the United States, Mount said the opportunity to work alongside men and women to advance Catholic education worldwide is a true privilege.
I think the church benefits from tapping into the skills, the experience, and the intuitiveness of women. And I'm very happy that Pope Leo is continuing the tradition that Pope Francis really tried to initiate during his pontificate.
Within the first month of his papal election, the Holy Father appointed Sister Tiziana Merletti as Secretary of the Dicastery for Institutes of Consecrated Life and Societies of Apostolic Life, which is led by the Vatican's first ever female prefect, Sister Simona Brambilla. In February, he appointed Sister Nina Krapic as Deputy Director of the Holy See Press Office and gave Sister Raffaella Petrini, current Secretary General of the Governorate of Vatican City State, an additional role in the Vatican's Commission for Reserved Matters. Margherita Romanelli, President of the Women in the Vatican, Donne in Vaticano Association, says seeing more female leaders will strengthen the sense of solidarity and friendship among all women working with the Holy See in different capacities.
The recent appointments of women to top positions have greatly helped other women in the workforce to feel valued and to commit themselves to working for the common good, alongside men. This has been very helpful, so we are pleased about this and are confident that the number of women in top positions will continue to increase.
Having worked at the Vatican for 31 years and across 4 pontificates, Romanelli has been a key figure in supporting women who have worked in the Vatican through the professional network she heads.
Io credo che l'associazione come la nostra, che si ispira ai valori evangelici,
And I believe that associations like ours, which are inspired by gospel values, have a very important role to play in collaborating with all women and with women's associations outside the Vatican, because this allows us to discuss the reality we live in,
che viviamo, ma
but also to show solidarity and not to think only of ourselves, thus relating to all other women who are outside the Vatican and where we live within society.
tutte le altre donne che anche sono fuori dal Vaticano e dove viviamo all'interno della società.
Sister Emanuela, thank you so much for joining us today for this interview. And in light of this interview being for World Women's Day, I want to start off by asking, what do you value most about being a woman?
I was born that way, you know.
From a businesswoman driving BMWs and Mercedes through the City of London to joining the Missionaries of Divine Revelation, Sister Emanuela Edwards has spent the last 20 years accompanying pilgrims and visitors to Rome, evangelizing through the beauty of the faith. She left the riches of the world behind for what she describes as a greater calling.
I think a woman has a soft way of getting to where she wants to go. I think she's able to look and appreciate and nurture people.
And your journey has taken you from Manchester in the UK to Rome. What was your childhood like in the UK? Did you ever imagine that you'd be joining a religious order?
I knew from an early age that maybe the Lord had something for me to do. And I can say that I was absolutely resistant to it. And so as I was growing up, I had this, I always had this great love, if you like, for the Lord. And so whenever the idea of being a sister, it was kind of, Lord, you can ask me anything, but don't ask me that. But the Lord has his way, of breaking us down. He's the hound of heaven who continues to search for us. And so, as I arrived in my late 20s, I started to ask the Lord seriously, what did he really want me to do? I encountered this wonderful story of the Virgin of Revelation who appeared here in Rome in 1947, and I was captivated by that, and that led me to lead a prayer group in England dedicated to the Virgin of Revelation. And so every Monday evening I would teach the faith, and we would pray the rosary devoted to Our Lady. And so obviously And the Lord started to work on me in a more profound way until after a visit to Rome, finally, I understood that He called me to be a missionary of divine revelation.
And what do you think is the particular contribution of female missionaries in the world compared to male missionaries?
The woman works, if you like, with the people, amongst the flock, trying in very many different ways. You know, we have this wonderful mission of explaining the faith through art, and so that is a point of connection, and I think as a woman it's very, very powerful. And also I think a woman's way is often more disarming, so people feel freer to open up and to ask questions, and that can be important in bringing the faith to this generation.
Not only are you a religious sister, but you're also a tour guide in Rome. What personally drew you to take on this job?
When I accompany people into the great basilicas in Rome, I'm not a tour guide as such, I'm more someone who accompanies the people to understand the history of this wonderful basilica as a means of teaching them the faith, as a means of bringing them closer to God. I think it's something God, if you like, with his call, elected me to do.
And what has been one challenge that you faced both in your vocation and in your professional work that maybe you didn't anticipate at the start?
I think when someone leaves your place where you were born and the language, and you go to a foreign place, there are innumerable challenges. And so every challenge, which can be practical, how to speak Italian, it was a great challenge for me, that. You know, living in a different place, I don't really like the heat either, so that was a challenge too. It's a challenge as well, you know, not seeing your family regularly as well. So all of these things, which were part of the religious life, part of the call, had to be overcome. And I think the only way to overcome any difficulty, whether it's a practical or a spiritual, is in front of the Blessed Sacrament praying. And so every difficulty that I have, then as now, I confront with the Lord in prayer.
Thank you very much, Sister.
You're welcome.
We'll be back after a short break with St. Hildegard's medicine of prayer. In the traffic-clogged streets of central Rome, far from the noise that so often surrounds the very idea of care, there's a place where medicine rediscovers the unhurried rhythm of listening. It's the home of the Opera dei Santi Angeli, a quiet refuge for lay people, priests, families, and pilgrims in search of an oasis of silence and spiritual recollection. Here, the auxiliary sisters welcome guests with a disarming simplicity, offering a style of hospitality that feels more like family than lodging. Removed from the swirl of tourist crowds, they prepare meals themselves and provide treatments inspired by St. Hildegard's tradition of healing. The house is in every sense a true retreat house. Prayer sets the pace of the day, and visitors are invited to lay their tangled burdens at the feet of Our Lady, undoer of knots.
We always say that the mistress of the house is the Madonna we have in the chapel, Our Lady, undoer of knots. Because of us, of course, Christ is the center. And so the retreats are always structured in the morning. Mass is celebrated first, followed by these meetings after breakfast. And then we have lunch together.
The retreats last 3 or 4 days and welcome small groups. The days are marked by alternating moments of quiet reflection in one's room and shared prayer, creating a rhythm meant to help heal the wounds of the soul.
Because the wounds are many, and the wounds of the soul are healed before the Lord, before the Blessed Sacrament, even in silence, you don't need to know how to pray, and truly, miracles can be seen.
But it's not only about prayer. For years now, an ancient tradition has been practiced and carefully preserved here. Hildegardian medicine, inspired by the thought of Hildegard of Bingen, a 12th century nun, mystic, and healer.
Hildegard was the world's first naturopath.
For Daniela, the house pharmacist, care begins with prevention through diet. Chestnuts for the brain, quince for rheumatism.
Usiamo sia prodotti a base di farro.
We use many spelt-based products, one of the grains with virtually endless properties because it is rich in amino acids. It's also helpful when you're feeling a bit tired or experiencing digestive difficulties, since it's a grain that satisfies without causing bloating.
Sazia ma non gonfia.
And then there are natural remedies, like the mix of spices, Gewurzkraft, to support the immune system, Roman pyrethrum, a natural antibacterial, and galanga, a root related to ginger, for the heart.
The cardiologists who later operated on me said it wasn't possible. I am a living case.
Simona recounts an episode in which galanga literally saved her life during a heart attack.
Assumendo questa radice,
by taking this root, I could feel myself improving, even amid the suffering, of course.
nella sofferenza, ovviamente.
Medicine must go hand in hand with prayer. At the heart of St. Hildegard's thought is a vision in which body and soul are inseparable.
And the body is healthy only when the soul is healthy, and the soul is healthy when the body is not, let's say, enslaved by vices.
According to St. Hildegard, in her revelations, illness is caused by sadness, by what we today call stress. This sadness creates a malaise within the body, and therefore the foundation of healing lies not only in nutrition, but also in the inner peace we must learn to achieve.
Here, care is not just a response to a symptom, but an attentive regard for the person in their entirety, body, mind, and spirit. It's an approach that surprises with its modern relevance, even as it draws its roots from medieval wisdom. Sister Caterina shows us how she prepares an ancient elixir.
Il vino del cuore, che è abbastanza facile prepararlo.
The wine of the heart is quite easy to prepare, as it requires only 4 ingredients: white wine, wine vinegar, honey, and parsley.
È molto utile perché ha proprio...
It is very beneficial because St. Hildegard says it heals the heart and helps overcome heart ailments.
The people welcomed here are not simply treated, but accompanied. Time itself becomes part of the care. Listening turns into a true therapeutic tool, and illness, when it occurs, is not seen merely as an enemy to fight, but as a message to understand.
E così anche le persone vengono spesso con...
Sometimes people arrive with serious illnesses and share their stories with us, and you can't help them much, because it's they who must come to understanding. This journey with St. Hildegard transforms your whole life. You gain insight, become calmer, more at peace, because for God, it is essential that the person experiences true joy.
Un percorso che cambia tutta la tua vita.
This is the mission of the Auxiliary Sisters of Care, far from the spotlight and the worldliness of society.
Noi siamo persone laiche consacrate nel mondo, abbiamo I voti di castità, povertà e obbedienza come tutte le persone consacrate.
We are consecrated sisters in the world. We have taken vows of chastity, poverty, and obedience, like all consecrated people in the world. But in hiddenness, much like the Madonna, or rather our absolute reference, Saint Hildegard, unlike what many feminist movements or interpretations suggest, she clearly explained in her writings the roles of man and women. The woman, through a kind of solidarity with other women, is called to help and become a guardian of the man, from the earliest age through adulthood.
Aiutare, diventare custode dell'uomo, ma dalla più tenera età fino all'età più adulta.
Fabiana, Simona, and Caterina live a life deeply rooted in the gospel and illuminated by figures like Hildegard of Bingen, who, in her own vocation, elevated female dignity through holiness, wisdom, and ecclesial service.